Hi guys, I'm Shmi and good morning to you from the test drive of the Ferrari GTC4Lusso T. We've now got the Lusso with the 3.9 litre twin-turbocharged V8. It still has 610 horsepower, 760 newton meters of torque, all of the looks of the 4-seat Lusso, but now with that V8 engine. So what's it going to be like as we take it out onto the roads of a rather beautiful day here in Tuscany, Italy today? You can see there's a nice lineup of the cars. We're going to have a lot of fun today driving them. Ours is going to be this one right here. Let's check it out.
Take me to the place we grew up in nature. Feel the flowers on my feet, crush them underneath. We grew up in nature. Your hands are open. Your law's been broken. Your worth is shaken. What's pure was taken.
Let's go on a walk around of the car and I'll explain how this fits into Ferrari's lineup and what the Lusso T is all about. But firstly, just a moment to take in the spectacular scenery that is around us here. The beautiful hills of Tuscany, some amazing roads, and a fairly lovely car to be driving them in the form of the new Ferrari. So this sits alongside the regular GTC4Lusso, the V12 engined car that I drove out here in Italy about a year ago. But of course, with the new V8 that I explained earlier, the 3.9 litre twin turbocharged V8, it's a little bit lighter. It does without the four-wheel drive system, so this is a rear-wheel drive car only. So it's a little bit more sporty in how it's positioned, a little bit lighter with 30 kilos saved by removing the four-wheel drive system, 20 kilos saved by the change in the engine from the V12 to the V8. It's not more because the V12 is already a very light unit. It's been developed obviously for this purpose, but it still has 610 horsepower and 760 newton meters of torque, which means 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, 3.5 seconds, 0 to 200 kilometers an hour, 10.8 seconds, a top speed 320 kilometers an hour, which is 199 miles per hour. So this car is definitely not a slouch. Ferrari is saying it's sort of positioned for 30 to 45-year-olds, young families, more city driving, more kind of practical everyday driving, and you get 30% additional range out of it by having that slightly smaller engine, while still basically maintaining all of the exact looks. The only things that are different between the two cars are the wheels. There's a new 20-inch forged wheel design and the exhaust tips. If we come round to the rear, this car has the sports exhaust system mounted, but you have a basically slightly different look because the V12 has a kind of double ring around the outside and these get a little bit narrower towards the exit. But that is all you will notice visually. Specification as standard is exactly the same. The options list is exactly the same. So there's not too much to stress about. And if you have a look at the interior, again, it's all exactly the same with the very large central display that I'll show you a lot more of shortly. The optional passenger display. Our car is fitted with a panoramic roof as well, which gives a very nice view to it. So basically, continues what we knew from before, the sort of upgrade to the FF, a little bit more room to the rear, a little bit more boot space, and some sort of extra technologies added like rear wheel steering as well, which I can tell you from my short drive so far basically makes the car shrink around you and gives you some more of that sort of sporty drive. So I'm going to be taking it for a full drive. Just head round the rear and talk a little bit more about some of the sort of cosmetic side. If you don't know about the Lusso itself, you've now got this sort of quad tail light design which goes nicely with the quad exhaust tips. Quite an aggressive shape to the diffuser down here, as you can see, with a sort of central position looking quite kind of race inspired. You've got a power tailgate for the boot. You've got these quite distinctive carbon vents, louvers at the side. This car has the carbon pack, so full skirts and splitter at the front and everything. Inside, these are the Daytona seats. This is an optional seat. And you've got the carbon fibre pack for the steering wheel, where earlier we saw it in regular. I think it was a metal of sorts, but it looks very nice in carbon fibre. Anywho, let's just fire this up for a moment. I've got the key in my pocket. It's the keyless system now, the new style Ferrari key. You can see with the buttons and features there, which has a nice home right there if you want to put it there. Foot on the brake, and you press the start-stop button right here. And the V8 comes to life. I'll just turn the radio off for a second. So I will show you all around the infotainment later on as well, but this is one of the sort of magical things about this car, is just how much it has been upgraded and brought up to sort of scratch. Well, the very best basically that is almost possible. We're in sport mode at the moment, but one of the big things with this car is the character change between comfort and sport on the Manettino, and even the noise it makes. It's louder starting up if you're in sport than it would be if you're in comfort, just to be a little bit more discreet in countryside villages or in the city or somewhere like this if you don't want to disturb people, but still has the ability to do this if you do. Red line, as you can see, about 7,600 on the rev limiter, and it does, well, we'll talk more about that when driving, but it doesn't have the same drama as the V12, but it does have quite a nice sound to it. So, what else can I show you in here before we go for a drive? I think that's most of it. Just a quick glance at the rear sort of seats and the way it sort of works back there. But like I said, we'll come back and I'll show you a lot more around the car when we get back. Actually, one thing, let's have a look at the engine bay. When we come back, we'll take a look at everything else. But this is, of course, quite a significant component of the car. The new V8 that, as you can see, has been mounted quite far back in the front end. So front mid-engine gives a weight distribution of 46/54, which is exactly where Ferrari wanted it for the driving experience. There are new intercoolers to make all of this work and of course handle the cooling around the front. And then down here you've got the carbon splitter I mentioned earlier. But one thing that's different from the FF that sort of, I guess, is confusing still to me, is that it's got the one grille, whereas the FF had separate additional grills towards the lower sides, which was perhaps a little bit sportier. But this is the new, well, the V8 engine, but it's in this car. So let's close that back up, click it down, there we go. And I think this very bright metallic red, well, not necessarily bright, but bright in the sunshine, sparkly metallic red car is crying out to be driven. So I'm going to jump on board, take you for a ride, give you some driving impressions of what the GTC4Lusso T is like when we're out on the roads. One of the first overwhelming sensations in here is how calm it is. It's almost kind of docile, and this was a similar experience in the V12 as well. You got in it and felt like it's much more of a GT car than, say, the FF was. The FF was a Ferrari 458 with two seats in the back and a larger engine up front instead of behind you. But it drove with those characteristics of super sharp steering, very, very, very sensitive pedal, so throttle and braking, and a kind of aggressive sporty feel to it. Whereas driving this in comfort mode on the Manettino, the standard comfortable relaxed settings, it goes along with almost no intrusion of engine noise. You can hear how quiet it is. Pretty much the only thing that you can actually hear is the climate control, which I've got blasting very high right now because it's a hot Italian day. But the sound deadening and soundproofing with the double glazed windows or triple glazed or however many layers they have is basically really rather impressive. You don't hear that much of what's going on outside when you're just cruising along. And here, going over some bumps, it rides exceptionally well. Comfort mode has the suspension in the soft setting and it kind of just cruises over everything very easily. Turning into corners, the four-wheel steer obviously helping. Cornering ability, because this is a big long car. Don't forget that's a big heavy long car, and it turns in exceptionally well. Kind of point and off you go, and then obviously at high speed they work to help you have some more stability as well. But driving like this, it's gentle, shifts are seamless in comfort mode, no sort of interruption or change in the way they feel. But let's turn it to sport on the Manettino, and this is the new style Manettino that's on the LaFerrari and the V12 version, and presumably the 812 Superfast and future models as well. And you can tell with a little touch of the pedal, it will drop a gear and give us a little bit more noise through the exhaust valves as well. They're very variable, so they'll operate differently. And another thing that's quite interesting is the ability to vary torque depending on your gear. So you've got a different torque curve for every gear, variable boost control. But you can feel just pulling away, lots of early torque, just into 5th gear, and away it will go and start getting a move on. So driving quite gently, the car is lovely. But now, let's start doing a little bit of this and blipping down the paddles. You can press auto to hold it in manual, and then you can go. That was basically up to the red line. That is going to be my next point. The red line comes very, very soon. In a way, it just creeps up on you, and there it is. And that's something that slightly gets me. It's a very similar engine noise to the California T, to the 488 GTB or Spider. It's obviously based around a familiar 3.9 litre twin turbocharged V8 to do that, but it's a little bit muted. And having driven obviously my FF so many times with the V12, which screams when you get to the top of the end, it's that sort of connoisseur-like noise from the naturally aspirated V12. This kind of just comes around a little bit soon, and it's something that's kind of bugging me as we go, is that it's not quite that Ferrari V12 in a GT that we know and we love. But let's move on to some things that are very good about it, and the rear wheel steer is really one of those. That combined with slip slide control 3 means that basically you have a lot of control and agility cornering. You have an ability to sort of just plant the car and off you go. Braking, ceramics are standard even on this model. Again, very impressive. And that, again, I think let's talk a little bit about the pricing point and where this sort of fits. So it's 199,285 pounds in the UK. So it's about 36,000 pounds less than the V12. Standard specification is exactly the same. Options all exactly the same prices, except for those exhaust tips and the wheels that I showed you earlier. The biggest difference though is emissions, and perhaps in other markets this is going to be more relevant than it is in the UK, where it significantly brings the car's price down. And in countries where you have massive taxes based on emissions, based on output, it's going to make a huge difference to the amount of tax that has to be paid, and ultimately open up the car to a new buyer, a new market, who don't necessarily need the V12, who don't necessarily need the 4-wheel drive systems, but would like this car. And as I'm driving a little bit more sportily, as you can no doubt tell on the video, the car is really coming into its own and livening and waking up. And the turn-in, you just don't feel like the car is anywhere nearly as big as it actually is. You have an ability to sort of place it straight on the road and then put your foot down, and by heck is it quick. You don't necessarily think that because it's the slower version of the car that it will be quite so fast, but you are still 610 horsepower with that 50 kilo weight saving, so it doesn't hold back from pulling away, shall we say. And on a lovely road like this, it feels completely at home, and you can be doing this with 4 people and with all of your luggage. And from my experience, you can be doing this with your skis in the back, your IKEA shopping, and away we go. Whew. And the noise sort of starts to become quite exciting as well when you sort of start putting on a little bit more power. I'm going to put the window down so we can hear a tiny bit more of that. There we go. There we go. Okay. So there's a lot more sound coming into the cabin now with the window down. Probably a lot more wind noise as well. I apologise about that, but enjoying the experience here. And as a drive, it's quite hard actually to fault it. Let's put the window back up, because it does everything in quite an exciting way. And we had a lovely chart to show the differences between this car, and it's basically more responsive lower in the rev range, so it will get on the power quicker. You'll feel like it's pulling away much quicker. So although it doesn't have quite the same top end, it has it there available more readily and fast for you. It has a tighter turning ratio, so it's more sporty in the way it drives, and you definitely feel that. You rarely, even on this kind of road, have to take your hands away from the 9 and 3 position. You can just hold onto the steering wheel, turn pretty tightly, and around it will go without having to let go. So basically, as a drive, it's very, very good. The V12 missing from it though is something that personally bugs me, and I think in a land where the price difference that says only 36,000, you know, you're going to be putting 50 or 60,000 pounds of options onto one of these. I think for me it would have to be the V12. The car itself is wonderful, and when I park up again I'll show you around the inside and the screens and displays and the electronics and a little bit more about that if you haven't seen them before. But the engine, as good as this engine is, and it's won Engine of the Year awards, I want the V12. I really, really, really want the V12 back in it. The car's great to drive, but you feel like you could be in something that's a little bit less special, and it wouldn't necessarily have made much difference. So we're going to continue on with the drive. So far though, overall, really, really nice. I haven't even needed to put it in bumpy mode. The suspension is that compliant. You can press the bumpy mode button in sport and it will soften the suspension up as well, but clearly not too much need to do. You feel the shifts in sport. They're a little bit more aggressive, so I don't know if you can sort of tell there's a little bit of sort of throttle cut when you shift up towards the top end in sport mode, which gives you a little bit more of that sort of sensation and experience. Big difference between sport and comfort. They vary quite significantly in the way they drive and the way the car feels as well. Anywho, enough rambling on. Onwards, I'll catch up with you and show you a little bit more around the inside. We've parked up for a stop in a very lovely Italian square. In fact, all of the cars in a line beside me here, but I want to use this opportunity to show you a little bit more around the interior, dashboard controls and the like. So I've got the ignition on, not the engine on, because it would be a little bit antisocial to keep it running. So I can show you a little bit about what we're looking at, how this all works. Obviously your very prominent central rev counter, as always with Ferraris. The speedometer on the right display, which you can configure to be analog or a digital readout. And then you can have your status updates and the like on the left. If, for example, I were to close the door, the steering wheel would actually return to a slightly lower position as well. And the seatbelt grabber would bring it forward, so it's easier to take that as well. So you can configure a number of things in these displays. If I just come in close so you can see, there are various sort of buttons that allow you to control through it. So if I go back here, you can see the main screen with various bits of information available to us and the different settings and things that you can go through as well there. That's on this control panel here, which has cruise control and the like as well. I'm going to open the door, which you do like this, just so I can get some air because it's very hot here. And then along that panel, you have the ability to open the boot, the fuel cap, and your memories for the seats as well. I like the new carbon fibre pack that you can have for the interior. Grab handles next to the JBL speakers, the carbon door sill as well. These carbon parts on the steering wheel with the lights, the shift lights are up in the top section. Carbon for the air vents, which are quite nice. I guess you get two each, pointing at you from the sides. Here you've got your lifter system, your parking beepers, and your camera. The camera is pretty good actually, shows in a central display, obviously mounted at the rear, view straight backwards. You can go back out of that, I suppose, if I press home maybe. Well, I managed to quit that, just ignition off and on again. So this is where you have this ginormous 10.25 inch display with many controls, and I went through this in a lot of detail when I was with the V12, so you can see that if you'd like to know a lot more about what you can have there. And it's controlled through this jog dial area underneath. You can go back to home, you can see all of the different setup. But a lot of this is replicated over into the passenger display, which is on right here. I hope we can just about see that. You can see the setting the Manettino's in, so with my other hand I'm just going to flick the Manettino and you can see that it changes on the passenger display to show you what setting the car is currently being driven in. Even I guess if you turned it all off, yes you can. With the engine off you can turn all the ESC off to the different settings. But with this, it's touchscreen. You can go through the different modes. Apologise for the very, very bright sunshine we have here, but you can see the different sort of things available to you. So performance, for example, has your gear, the rev counter, your speedometer. You can have your media control, so you can actually control the media from the passenger display, which is all really rather neat. Then you've got the open button for the glove box just there, decent amount of storage for some things. We've got obviously the paperwork and things in there at the moment. Then here, these again, carbon fibre, these sort of strap pieces with reverse auto launch, hazards. You've got a sort of thing for, call that for a cup holder in the middle. You can close up that. Emergency phone from Ferrari sitting in there. The key pouch behind the windows. The armrest, you can see I've got a camera in there, decent amount of space. And then in the back, let's actually jump into the back. If I squeeze out, pull the handle here to put the seat forward. So front seat is of course in my driving position. We've got the first aid kit underneath, so I'll just move that to the other side. Jump in, sit in my seat, pull the seat, my seat position, pull the seat back, and you'll be able to see how much space I've got. It's a little bit more than the FF. Oh, it seems to be going forward again. It's actually a lot more than the FF. There's a lot more room back here than you think. And if I put the camera around, you can see also I'm underneath the panoramic roof, which is very nice too. So I've got more than enough room. I'm about 5'10" and a half, I guess. What's that, 1 meter 77, something like that. And I've got ample space in the back with a very nice view out through the glass roof. You feel seriously open actually. And the way these rear seats are positioned, you're slightly above the front, slightly more towards the center. That's kind of my eye line. So you've got a lot of visibility out and about. And you've got your own sort of storage buckets, cup holders there. Armrest here, some USB ports in the armrest as well. Nice bits and pieces. This is the through load system, so if you want to put your skis or your golf bag in, it's just wide enough to fit a golf bag through it. Coming through from the boot through to the centre, can be open from behind or in front. Click that back. So yeah, that works. These seats can fold as well. They fold from this point, so the top half folds down. You get the extended space there too. So we'll just pop that forward so I can hop out and come round to the boot. Press that. Motorised tailgate. Up it goes. Let's fold the seat back. Shut the door. Actually, the doors, interesting observation. The maximum they can open is there, which is surprisingly little. You kind of feel like you want it to go a little bit further sometimes. Funny little one, that. Come around towards the back. You can see we've got plenty of luggage space. It's a little bit more than the FF had. Carpeted, you can have it with leather options. But yes, plenty of space back there. And now you get this, obviously, on Ferraris. In the boots of all cars, you get the specification plaque telling you all the details, how it came out of the factory, what it came with, what options were ordered on the car. So you've got that right there too. Hit close, and the boot will come down. And this particular colour of the car we've been driving is gorgeous in the sunlight. We've got a whole line of them here. There was a blue one you might have seen in the video earlier, but that's unfortunately not here right now, which look very nice too. So I think that is more or less everything I was going to show you about the Ferrari GTC4Lusso T today. Just come down, wander around past the line of cars just so you can see the various options and what they look like in this square where we're currently located. But it's been an awesome day driving the car, getting to know it, and I can see how in markets where the price differential based on the emissions is significantly larger than, say, the UK, the car makes complete sense and why you'd want it. But for me, it's going to be a struggle to pick the V8, I think, over the V12. I can see the scenarios whereby you'd want it. It's a little bit more playful, but it doesn't quite have that status symbol of the Ferrari V12, and for £36,000, I think I would spend the extra and take the V12 myself. However, that brings me on to how good the GTC4Lusso is as a car. It is brilliant. They've basically taken a Ferrari, brought it up to date technology-wise, given it new sort of driving dynamic technologies like the rear wheel steer, and basically it makes for a wonderful package. And quite frankly, there is nothing out there that you can replace an FF or a GTC4Lusso with other than its own model. So it's been a brilliant day. I hope you've enjoyed the look at the car and some thoughts and input from me driving it here in Italy. A big thanks as always to Ferrari for inviting me out and having the opportunity to drive it, and for you guys for watching the video. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch up with you again very soon. Cheers!